Hi, this is Benja with Hungry for Comics. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about arty comics in the Western tradition. I'm going to do a separate video on manga because it's a different history and there's just as much to talk about for the manga side of things as there is with Western comics. So I thought it would be best to do two completely separate, overly long videos about the topic from both angles. Going to be looking through some history and some different genres and movements in comics. Basically looking at works that kind of stand alone as great works of art and great works of sequential art. You can read them, you can just open them and look at the pictures. They're kind of, I think it's a sweet spot for certain comics that also function as an art book. Like you can read it or you can just dip in as well. Here, my friend Tom is with me here.
Hi.
Hey, Tom. And yeah, let's get started. I thought a great place to start would be right at the beginning of the 20th century with George Herriman's Krazy Kat. This is the original cat and mouse story. It was published in newspapers across the United States and eventually worldwide. Funnily, a lot of the newspaper editors did not like publishing this story, but William Randolph Hearst, who was the inspiration for Citizen Kane, as you might know, really liked this comic and insisted that all the newspapers that he published carried this strip, whether the editors liked it or not. So he wasn't all bad, I guess. He was a real champion of comics as a medium. This is the complete colour strips collection from Taschen. I like Krazy Kat. A lot of interesting stuff going on, not just with the art, but with wordplay. A lot of literary references going on here. The general story of Krazy Kat is there's the cat, Krazy, and the mouse, Ignatz. The cat is in love with the mouse, and all the mouse wants to do is hit the cat in the back of the head with a brick. And there's a dog who's a policeman. And it all takes place on these great vistas in the desert in the United States. And you'll notice already in these colour strips some very odd stuff going on, like the background keeps changing colour for no reason at all.
Would it have been originally in colour?
Some of them are in colour, some of them this is the complete colour strips. There's Fantagraphics do brilliant collections of the black and white strips as well that we'll have a look at in a second. So there are both colour and black and white strips of it. The colour ones are the most notorious for just being super creative, especially the way he keeps varying. Look what he's doing with the typography every time is different as well. Just a huge amount of great design sensibility going on here. Someone needs to make a book of like a little book of just the titles, the way he's changing them the whole time.
And is it like a through story, or is it just, are they all self-contained little moments?
They're all just self-contained little. It's kind of just repeating this same rhythm. Like the cat's infatuated with the mouse wants to brick the cat over the head. That's it. But there's this kind of there's a very surreal and quite a melancholy undertone to the whole thing. That is, it's in some way, this is a terrible book to start with because you can see the layouts are really beautiful, but you really have to read some of it to kind of get it. And when you first read it, you may be like, oh, what is this? But a few strips in, it'll start to click and you'll be like, wow, there's something really special about it. Especially there is an underlying melancholy to it that's really special. And just look at the way these panels are kind of bouncing out of place. And you've got the binocular view there and just some really early innovation going on right at the dawn of comics. The way these panels kind of, that kind of mirrors. There's mirroring going on with the panel designs for sure. Again, this typography is amazing. Now, the really interesting thing with the creator, George Herriman, is it was discovered after his death that he is African American, but hid that for his entire life. I mean, at that time in the United States, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, like, it would have been problematic for him to have been of African descent and be so far ahead in the profession that he was in. And once his origin was discovered, it puts the whole strip in a new light. Like, the fact that he's hiding in plain sight is coded into a lot of the comics that he wrote, and that puts a whole other spin on reading this.
Would he have had to just post them in then? Was he? How did he hide it?
No, he was quite light-skinned.
Oh.
He had very curly hair, and his workmates called him the Greek as a joke. That was his nickname, was the Greek.
Oh.
But he passed, as they used to call it. And I think his family intentionally doctored his birth certificate so it said that he was Caucasian. Knowing there's a brilliant biography by, who's the author? By Michael Tisserand, called Krazy, that talks about his family history growing up in New Orleans and the environment he grew up in after the Civil War. And that's really worth a read. I'm not sure if this is currently in print, but you can get them online secondhand pretty cheap. Like, cool. I've got my copy. It's a great read.
And another Eisner Award winner, of course.
Oh, and winner of the Eisner Award, yes.
So many are.
Yeah, so Krazy Kat. I mean, so there's this Taschen collection, which is all the complete colour Sundays. There's Fantagraphics published these books, these are the black and white strips, which are 4 years worth at a time. These are only the Sunday strips, though. There is another project to publish all of the daily strips, which is there's thousands of them. That could take years. And also there's the less deluxe, out of copyright reprints that are all available as well. There's lots of different ways to get hold of it. I just recommend, like, get hold of some Krazy Kat and read it. There's nothing like it.
How long did he go for? How long did he?
Ooh.
Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Google it.
My research is fantastic. I think way into the. Did he go into the 60s? I think it was up into the 60s. Oh, I'd switched my phone off to record this, so I can't Google it.
Yeah, just no. If you're out there, Google it and leave it in the comments.
Yes,
then,
please do.
That'll help us get more views anyway. It's your homework.
And next up, still in the early part of the 20th century, the Good Duck cartoonist, aka Karl Barks. Many of you may have read some of this. I know I read some of this in the 80s as a kid, like in the UK, some really bad duotone? Is that two-tone reprints of this? And I loved these comics as a kid. And it turns out that was this man, Karl Barks, working in relative isolation in the US, who was churning out these incredible Donald Duck adventure comics. For example, like the Rolling Boulder in Indiana Jones.
Yeah. That
comes from... That is completely lifted out of one of Karl Barks' Donald Duck stories. Really, really worth a read. The artwork is just absolutely pristine. And the writing and he would get all these images from postcards. This guy, I think he never left the United States. And he would draw all these incredible scenes and different countries, just all from postcards that he'd collected. This is the new Fantagraphics edition where they're going to publish new Taschen edition. They're going to publish 3 volumes of this, and this is like the best of Karl Barks. Fantagraphics, on the other hand, are publishing all of Karl Barks' work. I think there's 35 volumes of it, which is rather a lot. I've gone for the Taschen editions, which are really beautiful books as well. And where is it? There's foldy bits.
Love a foldy bit.
I do love a foldy bit. And they've recreated the entire comic book. They're all, so you get the proper front cover with a glossy cover and any ads and letters they were, and they've reproduced. It's like it's on this kind of deluxe version of comic book paper, and they've kind of faded the colours as well. And there's just.
See, I have never been a Donald fan. I've been a Daffy fan, but I'm assuming that it's just a vehicle for his art.
Exactly. Like this, they're quite different from the cartoons. This is way more like, I think Indiana Jones is a better comparison. They're like amazing adventure comics. They just happen to have Donald Duck in them, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Scrooge McDuck, and this dog who's always in drag for some reason. Some of the earlier stuff
in some places nowadays.
You're in the pyramids now, and again, arguably a precursor to Tintin as well. Like in terms of like the whole globe-trotting escapades. As the story goes, a young Osamu Tezuka grew up reading these strips.
Just for those who don't know, who's Osamu Tezuka?
I was getting to that. Thank you, though. Osamu Tezuka, a.k.a. the godfather of manga, he created Astro Boy and wrote some legendary works of manga like Dororo and... I've forgotten the other title. They're right. The Blackjack, which is, if you haven't read Blackjack, you should imagine if James Bond was a surgeon, that's Blackjack. But Karl Barks inspired him as a kid to train to be a cartoonist and then go on to spearhead the development of manga as a medium in Japan. So Karl Barks is
any history
a massively
him?
Central figure. He was just a good old down-to-earth Midwestern guy. Lived on a ranch with his wife. Was really he got sent contracts from Disney, and he would draw them in his home and send it to them. Again, worked in relative obscurity. It wasn't until after he'd finished drawing the Donald Duck cartoons that people actually found out who he was.
And it was the Donald Duck cartoons in the sense of a comic, he didn't draw the actual cartoons.
He started as an animator and didn't do so well, and transferred to the division that were doing the comics instead. And at the time, through most of his career, everyone assumed that Walt Disney was drawing these. Because as you can see here, it says Donald Duck by Walt Disney. It's not by Walt Disney, it's by Karl Barks. But really worth having a look at. Taschen do these monster deluxe editions. Fantagraphics do smaller editions that are more affordable but far more numerous, so pick your poison. I really recommend reading into this, and just there's a lot going on in these comics that we take for granted now that was really groundbreaking at the time, especially like the globe-trotting action of it all. Great stuff. Karl Barks. So going back a little to Krazy Kat, and I think one of the earliest and most endearing tropes in cartoons and animation actually is the cat and mouse. I can't show too much of this, otherwise this video will definitely get taken down. Squeak the mouse.
Okay.
I guess a lot of people's initial reaction will be Itchy and Scratchy. Itchy and Scratchy's got nothing on Squeak the Mouse. This is a beautiful piece of transgressive art by the Italian artist Matttioli. Really, really worth having. Fantagraphics do a beautiful edition of this, like oversized. This is the entire run of it. These independently published comics by Matttioli. Super, super violent. Violence is just the beginning. And such iconic pages. It's mostly silent as well. I can't go too far in this because it gets really... We start off with just them killing each other. Then we get into orgies, demon resurrection, zombification.
Anything?
Hex's Curse, it goes really, really far.
Just your average Saturday night.
And it's
so it gets saucy.
It gets saucy. It gets really, really disturbing. It goes about as far as any comic book ever has in terms of just explicit sex and violence
with mice,
with a cat and a mouse.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Really, really worth having a look at. And then we come to our next kind of topic, Mr. Chris Ware. This is his take on the cat and mouse, which is these insanely, almost unreadably elaborate strips that he drew.
I'm a big fan of his.
Chris Ware is the pathological OCD of this man in his cartooning is staggering, absolutely astonishing. And coming back to our original topic, we want to think about comics work that just stands on its own as great works of art. Pretty much everything Chris Ware has ever done is in this category. I think there's very few people who would dare go into this level of detail, like the sheer amount of work and patience that is involved in creating this.
It's like a piece of animation that's been laid out on a paper.
Yeah.
On paper.
Often with a lot of his works have multiple choice. You can go through different routes, and he uses like slightly different mediums and slightly different reinterpretations of the same material. I think this is still in print, Quimby Mouse, but a lot of it is just. I find it difficult to read this. There's just so much detail that it often I do find it slightly panic attack inducing. A lot of people do.
Overwhelm.
Yeah, it's really overwhelming, but that's also part of the intention, I think.
Now, I've not read this. I've read others by him, which we'll probably get to.
Yes, he's most famous for Jimmy Corrigan, the smartest kid on earth.
Yes.
Was I turning that last book upside down all the time?
No, you're fine.
I wasn't. Okay. So this is the first book he was known for. He'd been publishing this work called the Acme Novelty Library for a while, and this is a story that came from there. And in the dust cover...
do you know what? I've had this.
You've never opened the dust cover?
I've had this for 20 odd years. They're nigh on 20 years.
In the dust cover is like a history of the family of the main character up until the point of the beginning of the story.
It's like I've been shown a hidden map.
And I remember when this came out, when I saw this, I'd never seen anything like this in terms of graphic storytelling. He has created his own entirely unique way of telling a story sequentially.
And emotionally, it is the most heart-rending melancholia, exploration of loneliness.
Yeah, that is his main theme, is kind of loneliness.
Yeah,
I think.
it's other piece as well, and it's a masterpiece.
It's
an absolute masterpiece.
And something I love with Jimmy Corrigan, at the end of each chapter, you get these little cut-out models of scenes from the book.
Yeah.
At the end of each, which is just so cute. I want to know, has anyone actually cut out and made these models? Because I don't want to take a pair of scissors to this.
I think with modern technology, you could
reproduce
scan it and print it.
That never occurred to me. But the main attraction for Chris Ware that I wanted to look at, which I didn't have a copy of, and I was thinking I would really like to show this for this podcast. And then the next day, I went into my local Oxfam bookshop, and there it was.
No.
Yep.
No.
Manifestation.
Absolute kid. Which one was it?
Building Stories. Which Oxfam bookshop? Crouch End Oxfam bookshop is.
You're kidding me.
Awesome.
I always go in there.
Awesome.
I know it is.
I always get there before you and get all the comics.
Absolute sod. Yeah, this is. So I am interjecting quite a lot because this is what I actually know about Chris Ware.
That's good. Please interject.
So the main the main thing I love about Chris Ware is the huge humanity in his work. It's just phenomenal. The thing I love about it also is the imagination and the whole way he plays with the medium.
Yes.
You can't read it on the bus.
No, you can't read it on the bus.
You can't.
I mean, look at so this is his work building stories. So let's have a go. I'm trying to get it into some semblance of order. We have, what do we have? We have a board, like a book. Oh, hang on. There's like a map layout board game type thing here. So this is one part of it. Oh my lord! And then there's a.
It's my hand.
Kind of a giant newspaper broadsheet thing here as well.
I can't be trusted with this.
And there's another one here as well.
I'd have tea.
And you get like there's this, and you get these little booklets. This is all one story. I haven't read this yet. I don't know how to read it, but it's undeniably a work of art. Look at this thing. We get these little concertina things here. What's going on? These little different books of different size and shape and design. Insane. The story of a lonely bee. What? Stuff is beautiful. And what I love is like, I want to be in the pitch meeting to his publisher for this. Like, yeah, I want to get this big box and have like 18 different kinds of books, all different print methods and different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, he's not bookshelf friendly either. All of his books are weird, giant, odd shapes. But if you are meticulous about your bookshelving, it's really annoying. But it's beautiful.
But I think main recommendation, really, read Jimmy Corrigan's Smartest Kid on Earth. If you haven't read it, it is a beautiful piece of storytelling and a beautiful work of art.
And what's the second one that came out more recently?
Rusty Brown.
Oh my god.
Which I got like a third of the way through that, and it was so depressing.
Yeah.
Like, I can't go on. I felt so sorry for that kid.
I love a bit of Bleak.
Me too, but
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's if you wanna feel good about your life, but also sad about
someone else's,
get that book. It's just so stunning. I'd like to talk to Chris Ware.
Let's come to action,
okay.
Chris, come on the pod.
You know,
we'll see how you're doing. We can talk about your feelings. So next, the master of hyper detail, Mr. Geoff Darrow. So this was a collaboration he did with Frank Miller in the early 90s called Hard Boiled. And first thing I'll show you that's interesting about this work is this page here. Because two filmmakers called the Wachowskis were putting together the crew to make their first film, The Matrix, and they saw this panel and they thought, that's our production designer. So Geoff Darrow became the production designer on The Matrix. But he is also one of the most incredible comic artists of all time. Now, I think his works really stand on their own as art books. In fact, there's so much detail in a lot of his work that they're quite hard to read as comics. And just the sheer retinal overload you get from reading them can make it very hard to get through them very quickly. Just absolutely brilliant work. So this is Hard Boiled, his collaboration with Frank Miller. He did another collaboration with Frank Miller called Big Guy and Rusty the Robot, which was a kaiju story. Which I have.
Is that Frank Miller as well?
Yes. which I have somewhere on my shelf, but I appear to have...
So is he co-writing, or is it all just the art of and Frank Miller's writing everything?
I think it's like a back and forth. I think especially with the way Darrow draws, there's going to be a certain back and forth going on. So, to be honest, I think this is one of his sparser works. I think his main oeuvre, his main output in his life has been the series Shailing Cowboy. And there is a passage
I've got these.
that I want to show that is one of the most mind-blowing scenes in the whole of comics. Here we are. So we see, here he is, and these are all his enemies surrounding him. And it's like this massive panning shot. And you can see like the detail, every character, like there's some kind of detail about that person on each character. So there's like a little life story in each, and then it keeps going.
Yeah,
there's some people in cars there as well.
Banging around somewhere from back in the day.
Still going. Just that incredible panning shot. Oh, there's so many people they've brought a toilet with them as well. Just amazing, the action and the detail. This started as a comic called Bourbon Threat, which has been long out of print. Dark Horse are now republishing the Shailing Cowboy in these collected editions that will collect all of the original out of print Bourbon Threat as well. I'll have those in stock in a few days. Shameless plug. Right. Outrageous. So this is the first volume. This one's quite tame compared to what came after. This is the more recent one. He did Cruel to Be Kin. And there's just some. This is also known as the anti-Trump one.
Yes.
There's a lot of Trump supporters meet very gruesome ends in this one.
I know, because I've got a book plate with that one.
Oh, nice.
Of Trump in a diaper fighting Shailing Cowboy.
There's a lovely oversized edition of this that has no words as well, called the Silent but Deadly edition, which I didn't get. I thought there would be. I was fairly restrained and didn't buy the same book twice. But
it is beautiful.
It's
I love
absolutely beautiful. The level of detail.
It's absurd to like a phenomenal level. Plus, as a kung fu enthusiast, the depiction of martial arts, is outstanding.
The choreography and the violence is
like playing with the tropes, like punching people and their brains flying out the back of their head, and and the character as well, and the humour in it. It's so funny. All loads of vengeance themes again, which is very kung fu. Like, you ate my family.
Yeah, so. There's one story where a crab who's the relative of a crab that he ate at an all-you-can-eat seafood buffet comes after him for revenge.
There's a pig for the same thing.
He
ate like a pig's family that grew up and mastered all the martial arts. So in some ways, it's a pro-vegetarian.
Yes.
But
oh my lord.
And his talking donkey.
Yeah, the talking donkey. Just Geoff Darrow. Yeah, remarkable. Kind of a word of mouth thing. I was a comic fan for the longest time, and I didn't know about Geoff Darrow until he was recommended to me by someone.
Did he work on anything else apart from Hardboiled? Did he do the Marvel DC circuit?
No, he's done some covers. He's done some covers for Marvel and DC. He also very famously did a poster for John Wick.
Oh, did he?
That was deemed too violent to show. It was not supposed to be publicly available, but if you search for it online, you can find an image of the poster he did for John Wick, and it is it's what you'd imagine.
Do you know anything about him as a person?
I know there are a brilliant series of interviews with him on the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel. He's painfully humble. He works on a giant drawing board with a 6-foot extendable ruler either end of it. He lives in France with his wife and kids. Has for, I think, over 10 years. He was very good friends with Moebius, the brilliant French comics artist who we should probably have a look at next, actually. I think that's a good segue. The interviews with him on Cartoonist Kayfabe are really worth checking out because he's just so super humble and seems to be remarkably unaware of just how capable he is. The guy's he's a very sweet, humble guy. Really, really interesting dude. And he met Moebius working as an animator at Hanna-Barbera in the 80s, which is where a lot of comics artists ended up working. All right, Mr.
And you can see here like how similar it is to Scooby-Doo.
Getting real Fred Flintstone vibes.
Yeah, real simplistic.
Giant pig being chased by
lines.
A giant flying shrimp.
Yeah.
So, we mentioned him earlier, a good friend of Geoff Darrow, Mr. Jean Giraud, Moebius. In my humble opinion, the greatest comics illustrator that ever lived. I think there's very few comics artists whose work you could recognise from a single line. Like, imagine, like, there's some musicians, like, you hear one note they've played and you know it's them. Like Wayne Shorter, the saxophone player. You hear one single note, you know that's Wayne Shorter. You see one tiny little line and you know it's Moebius. So what I'm showing you here is The Long Tomorrow. This is a French edition. So I recommend that there's a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune about the failure of the director Alejandro Jodorowsky's attempt to make the movie Dune in the 1970s that brought together a whole bunch of artists. Like Moebius worked on it, H.R. Geiger worked on it, Daniel O'Bannon, who later went on to write Blade Runner. No, Alien. He didn't write Blade Runner. We'll come to that. He wrote Alien. A whole lot of amazing sci-fi work came out of the failure of Jodorowsky's Dune project. One of them being this story, The Long Tomorrow, which Dan O'Bannon wrote and drew and then passed on to Moebius to improve the illustration on. And this is where the whole kind of visual language of Blade Runner comes from, this story. You can see this kind of, you've got this moonshot and there's like a crater and there's a city built into that crater.
Even the name The Long Tomorrow is very Chandler-esque.
It's like a sci-fi noir, and it's got this kind of cyberpunk aesthetic being established in this story. Absolutely beautiful. I love Moebius's colour palette as well. There have been some attempts to recolour Moebius in a more modern style, and it's failed horribly every time. It's a great story, The Long Tomorrow. Really nice little short story. Not easily available in English. But I do recommend that a lot of out-of-print comics in English there's scans you can get on the Internet Archive, which in my opinion is fair game. If it's not available, then it's okay to get scans. If you go on the Internet Archive, you can get an English scan of this to read. Lovely, really cool story. And another thing that came out of the failure of Jodorowsky's Dune project is... Oh, I'll do the full... Hang on, unveiling.
Full reveal.
Is the Incal.
Oh. I'll do that noise again, just so...
Which is, as far as I know, at one time it's the best-selling science fiction comic of all time.
You got a fancy version.
I got the fancy version, yeah. Yeah. They have, every now and then they make an oversized version of it, and I think if you can get hold of a larger edition, it's really worth getting hold of. It was originally intended to be this size. The commonly available one is a bit smaller, and it's it doesn't quite do the artwork justice.
I think my
in my
version's
opinion.
around that size, but it's not got the lovely matte black cover.
Right.
I do love a matte black cover.
And there you go. Again, you've got that kind of Blade Runner aesthetic there. When reading the Incal, you will, on every single page, you will see something that has been stolen and put in a movie. This is kind of the codex for the past 40 years of sci-fi movies and television.
In there already.
Oh yeah. Settled out of court for an undisclosed sum.
Really?
Yeah. Moebius sued Luc Besson and won.
Yeah.
For the Fifth Element. In fact, one of the chapters of this book is called The Fifth Element.
I can't believe you wouldn't just get him on board with it instead.
I think he was involved with the project for some of the costume design, but not for everything of his that they used. I think, to be honest, I think filming these pages doesn't really do it justice. Just if you haven't read the Incal and you're into comics, get a copy of the Incal. It's sci-fi story. Sometimes it feels like therapy as well. There's some really beautiful kind of metaphysical and philosophical elements to this story.
Yeah, it did hurt my brain at times.
Really lovely colour palette, lovely use of colour, really eclectic. And this edition, if you can get hold of it, comes with this really nice kind of print of this image. You get like a black and white and a colour print of that image, which is nice. And yeah, Moebius. I think I'm going to have to do a whole separate episode just on Moebius. But for now, check out the Incal. Really, really worth reading. And can we continuing on from Moebius, still looking at French comics, I'd like to mention another French auteur, and if you want to talk about arty comics, my lord, Mr. Philippe Druillet. I think this is his most well-known book, is The Six Voyages of Lone Sloan, that was originally published in Matttioli magazine, which was republished in the United States as Heavy Metal magazine. Now, the Druillet work is, to call it psychedelic would be an understatement. It's pretty bonkers. Giant spaceship face, psychedelic memory machine. Just incredible. All pre-digital stuff as well. Like giant castle on a pirate ship. That's one of my favourite images. I love that. So Six Voyages of Lone Sloan are these kind of loosely connected short stories of this guy just kind of bumming around the galaxy, trying to find his way home. Kind of loose, kind of Odyssey style storytelling. Just these amazing double page spreads as well. Really epic. Now let's have a look at, here's another volume of it. These are all in print in English right now as well, thanks to Titan Books. They're very readily available. Really worth getting hold of. Just everything about his work screams French as well. There's something about it, but it's just remarkable stuff. Superb sci-fi art. Way. Oh. Giant space castle face. Oh yeah, Castle Grayskull. Yeah, and if at this point you thought there was anything original about American sci-fi and fantasy work, you haven't read enough European comics, because that's where they all got it from. And Druillet is no exception. I had to stop reading this at one point because it was triggering my migraines. Because there's just so much going on. Absolutely beautiful stuff. So here's another Lone Sloan volume. There's how many Lone Sloan volumes are there? I think there's about 9 right now. Just absolutely eye-popping artwork. Beautiful stuff. And a bit of Escher style trickery going on there. Lovely panel design. Oof. Yeah, Druillet. Check him out. And also, finally, here's a piece. This was about the untimely death of his wife. This kind of very dark, broody, gothic horror story he wrote called The Night. It's really... Oh, this is some heavy stuff. But these colour palettes he's using as well. I feel like comics were a lot more creative with colour pre-digital. Someone's going to check me in the comics and go, actually, this is digitally coloured. But as far as I know, this is not digitally coloured. But such a beautiful colour palette there. Yeah, Druillet. Check him out. Okay, now we're getting into the heavy arty shit now. We're more than 10 minutes into the video, so I can say arty shit. Jim Woodring. Who you have no idea about Jim Woodring, no. Tom, is this correct? Oh, allow me to introduce you. So, in my humble opinion, not only is Jim Woodring a fantastic comic artist, he's one of the greatest artists of the 20th and 21st century. Okay,
that's bold statement.
So this is, yes it is, I stand by it. So this is a collection of 3 of his books that have been brought together by Fantagraphics under the title One Beautiful Spring Day.
He's saying this is better than Rob Layfield.
No comment. I wonder how Rob Liefeld feels about Jim Woodring. Imagine a really simple way to put it. Imagine the bastard son of Walt Disney and Salvador Dali.
Nice. Who they did collaborate once, I think.
Did they? Oh yes, there is.
There's one collaboration.
Yes.
You can watch a bit of it on YouTube if you can find it. It's phenomenal.
Anyway, back to the matter at hand. So Jim Woodring was born with some very strange perceptual disabilities where his dreams would persist very long into his waking hours. So he was hallucinating constantly as a child. And there were things like he couldn't tell the difference between cartoons and reality on television. So he had some real... Yeah, it has some real... And his life has been plagued by the bizarre waking dreams and hallucinations, many of which are the inspiration for the work that he does. So he has these...
Is he still alive?
Oh yeah, he's still going. He has a new book coming out in July. I can't wait to read it. So he has this character who I think is called Frank. I forget. It's been a while since I read it. So he has this character who lives in this world called the Unifactor, which is this kind of playground for all kinds of things to happen. And they're all completely silent comics. And they're drawn in this incredible kind of woodcut style.
Now, funny story.
Yes.
As a child, pre-teen, I used to have this problem where my dreams used to overlap into reality.
It was natural. For a lot of kids it happens, but only for a few minutes, not for like hours at a time. Yeah, which was the case with Jim Woodring.
I used to get it for quite long, more than a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But that's all gone. That's so fascinating that he...
So I find reading Jim Woodring, I get like a semi-religious experience reading his work. It's so like, it's funny, it's horrific, it's endearing, it's terrifying. It's like all of life is encapsulated in this weird, surreal world. And if there's any overarching theme, it seems to be about nature and the beauty and brutality of it. This is an autobiographical moment here. According to Jim Woodring, when he dreams, in his dreams he goes to a cinema where his dreams are shown to him on a screen. Which, as you can see, the character here experiencing that exact thing. And it goes into these just absolute fits of surreal occurrences. Just beautiful stuff. And we're talking about like comics that just function as a standalone art book as well. Like this is right on the money. A really essential piece of work, I think, especially if you're not aware of Jim Woodring. He is Really, really unique. Such incredible pieces of work. That's the thing, he'll just be going about his day. Every story starts with him just waking up and he's like, hey, it's a beautiful day and there's a giant man stamping on him. Just beautiful.
Yeah, it's time. But like the woodcut effect, and they're all black and white, are they? He only works in black and white.
There's some colour stuff.
You love your black and white comics, though, don't you?
I do. I'm a bit of a black and white snob, I must say. I recommend a good starting point is this little book of his, Weathercraft, which is a story set in the same world, and absolutely beautiful. And in this one in particular, there's hidden on every page. There's an om. So it's kind of like a spiritual Where's Wally. But just a fantastic artist, Jim Woodring. There's a brilliant documentary about him online called The Illumination of Jim Woodring that I really recommend you check out. Just surreal, mesmerizing. Some of it, going back to Krazy Kat, there's elements of this that remind me of that, but obviously far more extreme. But you've got the vista and this kind of surreal atmosphere. Beautiful stuff. And there's also his earliest work were these kind of stream of consciousness comics. Autojournals, he called them. There's some colour stuff in here. And this frog, apparently he's been hallucinating this frog for his entire life. It keeps popping up, and he does a lot of different illustrations of it through here as well. So these were some comics he published with Fantagraphics, and it's kind of like a journal and different kinds of stories and stuff. More kind of conventional compared to the Unifactor stories, but I really recommend Weathercraft and One Beautiful Spring Day. Incredible work. I really look forward to the new work of his coming out, I think June or July this year. A work I feel we have to mention if we're talking about comics that stand alone as great works of art is Promethea by Alan Moore and J.H. Williams III. Two creators. So Alan Moore, I will read anything written by Alan Moore, and I will read anything drawn by J.H. Williams III, even Batgirl. Promethea, if it is one of the lesser known Alan Moore works, thankfully the absolute editions of it are back in print. These were going for a lot online when they were out of print. I think it's really worth getting in the larger edition. So Promethea ostensibly starts as a superhero story where a girl living in some kind of alternate future reality becomes the embodiment of the Egyptian or Greek goddess of imagination. But this is kind of a lure in order to draw you in and then expose you to a tremendous amount of information about magic and tarot and Kabbalah and the nature of reality and the subconscious and collective unconscious.
Good old Alan Moore.
Good old Alan Moore. A bit of light reading for you. But so a few things I want to show you though, specifically. First of all, let's have a look at some of the art, because like every page there are all these double page spreads.
I will say he's probably the greatest thing to ever come out of Northampton. Hands down. I had a very small stint at Northampton Neen University,
Right.
where I discovered absinthe.
Okay.
And was ejected from the university quite quickly. And I wish at the time I knew Alan Moore lived there, which I didn't, full stop.
Such a great writer. Big Al. Something I find interesting with Promethea, well, among many things I find interesting about Promethea, if you listen to interviews with Alan Moore where he talks about four-dimensional space, and then you read Promethea, you see actual graphical depictions of the way he was describing four-dimensional space, like the way you have these roses with birds coming out of them, and there's the fringes of these pages are covered in these kinds of things. And just such eclectic panel design in this work. It's just incredible. It keeps shifting art styles and color palettes. Now, the few things I want to show about Promethea. The main one I want to bring your attention to is the kind of now legendary issue number 12, which this is the one single issue of Promethea that I have kept a copy of. It's designed as one continuously long panel, so you could lay out all the pages and they would all connect together. And this is essentially, it is a beginner's guide to the major arcana of the tarot deck. It is a biography of Aleister Crowley and a history of human civilization. and and every page contains an anagram of the name Promethea as well. And it's just absolutely stunning. Yes. If all you get from this whole podcast is that you need to read Promethea, I'll be happy. Like, you need to read. Any comics fan needs to read Promethea. Especially, I think there's a beautiful way it takes a very conventional comics language and uses it to open you up to a world far beyond conventional comics.
Yeah, because it's a Wonder Woman-esque start, really.
Yeah.
Like a high-tech Wonder Woman-esque, and then it goes into this.
Yeah, and it goes further. Like, for example, there's 2 of 3 of the Absolute editions in print now. I think the final one will be in print in about 6 months from now. In the second volume, the characters literally explore the Kabbalah. And there's a chapter on every different sphere of the Kabbalah, and each chapter has the colour palette that follows that sphere of the Kabbalah.
And what's the Kabbalah?
The Kabbalah is, in Hebrew mysticism, it is the tree of life. And it is like the tarot divination is derived from the tree of life, the Kabbalah. And it's effectively, it's a map of an idea, it's a map of the human mind, it's a map of human experience, and it's a map of the universe all rolled into one. It's a very, very, especially for creative types, I must say, it's a very interesting way of understanding your thought processes and how to bring something from your imagination into being, which he explores in exquisite detail in these pages. Just absolutely beautiful. JC. This is we're in the war moment there. Such a beautiful book, really. I think there's few experiences in comics that can come close to reading Promethea for the first time. It really is really mind-blowing. Both the writing and the art just work together on such a high level. There's very few works that come close to this, but most of them involve Alan Moore in some way, I must say. I think there's very few graphic storytellers that understand the specialties of the medium as well as Alan Moore does. Yeah, Promethea. Okay, and final artist for this video, although I think I need to revisit this topic many times.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be the only topic, actually.
Well, RT comics that you really are into.
Because that's pretty, yeah. But the other title of comics could be like comics I dig that you should probably read.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better way of doing it. You do introduce me to like a world that I'm not very well versed in, which is the less conventional stuff. I always leant that way with my reading, but then I kind of always just fall back to the Marvel and DCs of the world. The thing
something I love about the medium of comics is it's a rabbit hole populated by other rabbit holes. There's so many different niches and little pockets and corners that when you've had enough of one, there's all this other stuff you can discover.
Yeah, I think it's just like I don't have the knowledge to go down those things.
I must say, a few channels I recommend. I really recommend digging into the archives of the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, which was run by Jim Rugg and Tom Scioli and the now very sadly departed Ed Piscor. That had contributed so much to my knowledge in comics and to the detriment of my bank balance. But if there's something out there and interesting in comics, they've done a video on it, and they've probably interviewed the guy as well, or gal. Just a great resource. Also, I've forgotten how many T's there are, but his channel, it's Matt with many T's. He's done a lot of really good in-depth documentaries about several comics creators, and he continues making them. They're a brilliant resource. The Living the Line channel as well, they're a publisher, but they do some great super nerdy deep dives on different genres and illustrators. Anyway, back to it. Mr. Robert Williams, someone who's very dear to my heart. So Robert Williams was part of the original Zap Comics crew. Now, Zap Comics was founded in San Francisco in the late 1960s by Mr. Robert Crumb. And this was the inception of what's now known as the American underground comics movement. And it was effectively a bunch of guys making extremely obscene comic books, just letting it all hang out, like very, very like satirical, pornographic, explicit, violent, anything goes. And it was a bunch of dudes stoned out of their minds in San Francisco, so you can imagine what happened. So this is a collection of all of his cartoons and early drawings. Not currently in print, I think. This is from Fantagraphics. Copies are still reasonably affordable online. I wish they would reprint this. So let's just have a flick through his cartooning work. He was very active in the hot rod scene as well. And you'll notice he did a lot of t-shirt designs and ads for hot rod and monster truck companies and events. So this all the ad work he did. A lot of his cartoons. Most of his cartoons seem to be about how much he likes bums. Nothing that deep, really. Just kind of what you'd expect from a...
Kind of bums, really.
True. I mean, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's very kind of... The Guerrilla Women of the Third Reich is a personal favourite, if I remember.
Of course.
So kind of zany out there. Kind of... Nothing you wouldn't expect from 60s, 70s underground comics. Some of his covers here, which are really, really nice. There's a cover he did for Zap. So... all in all, pretty interesting. If it had ended there, that would be like, okay, pretty decent cartoonist. But what happened following this was that he became an oil painter.
Oh, wow.
Now, hang on. Have a look at this, Tom. Get your eyes around this. Do you recognise this image?
No.
This is probably what he's most known for in the mainstream. So the title of this image is Appetite for Destruction. And this was the inspiration for the title of the first Guns N' Roses album. And this was the original cover image.
Oh, really?
Yes. Which was banned. But that, and especially in, I don't know if you know at the time, in the United States, CDs would come in these long cardboard boxes.
Yeah,
so the cover image
fit into
was
the LPs.
so the cover image was this whole image. So the thing is, though, it's not, he didn't just become an oil painter. He took everything he'd learnt about sequential art and comics and translated that into oil painting. So this is, hang on, is that what? Yeah. So this is an early work of his that he did called The Garden of Retinal Delights. No, In the Land of Retinal Delights. And the closer you get to the page, the more detail you see. It's absolutely stunning work. And the way he can just bend perspective, like serious technical drawing skill, serious painting skill as well. Like, this guy is not messing around. And he came up with this notion of what he called exponential art, where the idea is you have an idea somewhere on the page, and everything else on the canvas emanates from that idea. So in a way, it's working kind of sequentially like a comic strip, but there's no panels, and it's encapsulated in a single painting. And let me just show you. I'm very badly prepared. I could have bookmarked some of these, but I haven't. But let's have a look at some of his work here. He did a lot of nudes because he says he keeps painting boobs and he sells a lot of paintings. So why would he stop painting boobs?
There's a lot of boobies.
Yeah. He has a whole series of nudes on junk food.
Junk nudes.
This is his zombie series. But you see, as we go later on, we really get into the exponential stuff like this. This is where we start getting to the idea, like all the different facets of an idea captured in a single painting. So it kind of, you can read them like a comic. Just absolutely beautiful. In my opinion, one of the greatest oil painters of the latter 20th century. Still going today as well. Absolutely brilliant artist. Really popular in America, completely ignored in Europe and the UK. I think in Europe he's more popular than he is in the UK. Totally ignored in the UK.
It's quite Americana though, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. But I think it's his inspiration is junk, trash culture. And this is from which, and he calls this as well, his name for it is, he calls it lowbrow art.
Yeah, it's kind of grinder house art.
Yeah. But there's a deeper mechanism at play here. And he talks about this, other people talk about this, is that as the formal art schools in the latter half of the 20th century, as they make a move more into abstract expressionism, like the kind of Pollock school of art, and as the technical drafting skills necessary are taught less and less on fine art degrees, we end up in a situation where most of the fine artists don't have the technical skill anymore. And the people who do are all the illustrators, the people who are working in commercial art and comics art. So his he has a manifesto at the beginning here. It talks about the lowbrow art manifesto, where he's saying basically the greatest, most accomplished artists of our time are all working in trash. They're all working in what's previously been seen as junk and pulp mediums. Like we're saying, we look at the work of Moebius or J.H. Williams. These are great artists, and they're working in comics. Why? Because the wider art world isn't interested in people with the technical skill anymore.
I think there's also a level of class in there as well.
Yeah.
A lot of times with the wider art world, a lot of doors are shut to a lot of people.
But Mr. Robert Williams, just again, you see the way that you can really study these images, and you get there is a sequential flow to them. The way that there's a story being told here. That clearly this guy worked in comics before he went into oil painting. Just remarkable. And I think that wraps it up. I really recommend looking further into Robert Williams as well. There's a great documentary about him called Mr. Bitchin' that is freely available on YouTube. He's a really, really interesting guy. He founded a magazine called Juxtapose that I really recommend as well, which is all about what he calls the lowbrow art movement that champions illustrators and people working as like working designers who create art as well, and comics artists. Again, it's all wholly based on this theory that the best artists alive today are all working in what we would consider lowbrow culture. And personally, I wholeheartedly agree. So yeah, that's it for today. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell. We'll be posting monthly for now, and you can.
Oh.
with or without you, Tom.
Yeah, we can do this.
In varying stages of production quality, depending on whether Tom can make it or not.
Or if he's hungover.
I'll be at Stroud Green Market every Sunday from 10 till 2:30 selling comics. So if you just want to come and chat about comics, I'll be there for that too. And I curate a graphic novel section at the wonderful cooperative All Good Bookshop, 35 Turnpike Lane in North London. You're welcome to pop in anytime. And that's it for now. Have a great one. See you next time. Bye-bye.